Hi, today we are going to look at the product rule. Our product states that if we have two functions, we'll, for sake of argument, refer to these as functions f and g. If both these functions are differentiable at a particular x value, then f times g is differentiable at that x value. And we get this rule. So our derivative of f of x times g of x is equal to our derivative of f of x times our original function g of x plus our original function f of x times the derivative of g of x. So now that we've looked at this, we'll put into practice with some example questions. Okay, so first example, use the product rule to find the derivatives of, we've got y equals 2x cubed plus 5 times 3x squared minus x. So if we're finding the derivative of y, that means we have d over dx of 2x cubed plus 5x times 3x squared minus x. So from that previous page, we know we take the first part of it is we take the derivative of the first function and multiply it by a second function. So that means we have the derivative of 2x cubed plus 5 times this function, so times 3x squared minus x. And then we have plus this original function, so 2x cubed plus 5 times the derivative of our second function, our 3x squared minus x. So next step, we'll go through, take the derivative of this function, take the derivative of this function. So we have our derivative is equal to, when we take the derivative of this, that's going to be, the 3 will move in front, multiplied by 2, so that'll give us 6x squared. Derivative of a constant is 0, so we just have 6x squared times 3x squared minus x. Then we have plus 2x cubed plus 5 times the derivative of this. So the derivative of 3x squared would be 6x. Derivative of x is 1. So we've got minus 1. So now we'll multiply these out. So we have 6x squared times 3x squared, which gives us 18x to 4. Then 6x squared minus times negative x, so that gives us minus 6x cubed. Then we have 2x cubed times 6x squared, so that's going to give us 12x to 4. Then 2x cubed times negative 1, so minus 2x cubed. Then 5 times 6x, so plus 30x. And then 5 times negative 1, so minus 5. So now we'll go through and collect like terms. So we've got 18x to the power 4 plus 12x to the power 4, so that's going to give us 30x to the power of 4. Then we've got minus 6x cubed minus 2x cubed, so that's going to give us minus 8x cubed. Then we have x squared, which we didn't end up with any x squared terms, so we'll skip over that. So then we have just one term with an x, we've got plus 30x, and we have just one constant term, so negative 5. So this would be our derivative of this. Okay, next example, we have y equals the square root of x times 2 minus 3x. And once again, we want to take the derivative of this. We know our derivative is d over dx of root x times 2 minus 3x. So once again, we can see we have two functions here that are multiplying by each other. We've got this first one, which is the square root of x, and the second one, which is 2 minus 3 root x. So we'll do the same thing as we did with the last one. So we take the derivative of the first function. So we've got d over dx of root x times our second function, so times 2 minus 3x. And then we have plus the first function, which was the square root of x, times the derivative of the second function, which was 2 minus 3x. So we'll take those derivatives. So if the derivative of the square root of x is 1 over 2 root x, and then that's multiplying by 2 minus 3x, and then we have plus the square root of x times the derivative of 2 minus 3x, that would just be minus 3. So multiplying this first term out, we've got 2 minus 3x over 2 root x, and then we have got minus 3 root x. Now, often we'll try to get things to one single fraction. So I would multiply this term by 2 root x over 2 root x so we can get the same denominator. So that gives us y prime is equal to 2 minus 3x over 2 root x minus 6x over 2 root x. So now they've got the same denominator, we can combine like terms. So we've got 2 minus 9x over 2 root x. Okay, next example, we want to find the equation of the slope of a function y equals 1 minus 4x cubed times 3x squared minus 5x plus 2 and determine the slope when x equals 2. So right away we can see we are using our product function still because we have one function times another function. So we know the derivative of y is d over dx of 1 minus 4x cubed times 3x squared minus 5x plus 2. So we'll take the derivative of a first function, so d over dx of 1 minus 4x cubed times our second function, so 3x squared minus 5x plus 2. And then we add our first function, so 1 minus 4x cubed times the derivative of our second function, which was our 3x squared minus 5x plus 2. So we'll take these derivatives now. So we've got y prime is equal to negative 12x squared times 3x squared minus 5x plus 2. And then we have plus 1 minus 4x cubed times the derivative of this. So the derivative of this would be 6x minus 5. Okay, so our next step is to multiply this out. So we've got y prime equals negative 12 times 3 is negative 36. So negative 36 x to the power of 4. Then negative 12x squared times negative 5x would give us plus 60x cubed. Then negative 12x squared times 2 would be minus 24x squared. And then we have plus 1 times 6x is 6x. 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And then we have negative 4x cubed times 6x. That'd be minus 24x to the 4. And then negative 4x cubed times negative 5 would be plus 20x cubed. So we'll go through combined like terms. So we've got negative 36x to the power of 4 and negative 24x to the power of 4. So that's going to give us negative 60x to the power of 4. Next, we've got cubed, so we've got 60x cubed here, and we have 20x cubed here, so that would be 80x cubed. And then we've got negative 24x squared and a negative 24x squared. That should give us negative 48x squared. Oops, sorry, I just realized I misread something. So we had negative 24x squared, but as our only x squared. So we have got negative 24x squared. And was x to the power 4, which we already dealt with. Next, we've got plus 6x and then minus 5. So this would be our equation of the slope of this function. Now, if we want to determine the slope when it's 2, we'll just say y prime of 2, which means we're going to substitute 2 in for each of these x values. That gives us negative 60 times 2 to the power of 4 plus 80 times 2 cubed minus 24 times 2 squared plus 6 times 2 minus 5. And that gives us a slope at that location of negative 409. Okay, next example, we're told that g of 4 is 4 and g prime of 4 is negative 2. We want to know what h prime of 4 is when h of x equals x cubed minus 1 times g of x. So if we're looking for h prime of x, that would be our derivative of x cubed minus 1 times g of x. So once again, we have two things multiplying by each other. So we've got our product rule, so we will utilize our product rule. So that's going to be our derivative of x cubed minus 1 times our function of g of x minus x cubed minus 1 times our derivative of g of x, which is our g prime x. So we'll take the derivative of our x cubed minus 1, so that's h prime x is equal to 3x squared times g of x minus x cubed minus 1 times g prime of x. So at this point, we're looking for h prime of 4. So that means we have 3 times 4 squared times g of 4, which we know g of 4 is 4, minus 4 cubed minus 1 times g prime of 4, which we're told is negative 2. And that should give us 318.